Alright, Richland Rams, today we're going to multiply fractions. Your standard today is 6.3e, multiply and divide positive rational numbers fluently. So we are really going to be only using the rational numbers of fractions and decimals. So okay, rule number 1 means we're going to, when we multiply fractions, we need no whole numbers. And what that means is that if we have a whole number in our fraction operation, as in 7, we need to change 7 to a fraction. And how do we do that? We put it over 1. So we'll have 7 over 1, which is the same thing as 7 divided by 1, which equals 7. Good job. All right, number 2, we have no mixed numbers. Okay, so no mixed numbers in our fraction operations, which means if I have 4 and 1/2, I need to use my Texas popcorn method and change it to an improper fraction, which means I am going to multiply my denominator times my whole number and add that product to the numerator, and my sum becomes my new numerator. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. And remember, the denominator stays the same. So I get 9/2. Good job, Richland Rams. Okay, number 3. Then, when I make sure I have no whole numbers, no mixed numbers, I can multiply straight across. Okay, so for example, if I have 1/4 times 2/3, I'm just going to multiply straight across. So I have 1 times 2, 4 times 3, that gives me 2/12. And then of course I'm going to simplify where I can. I have 2 divided by 2, 12 divided by 2, and my answer is 1/6. All right, good job. Let's go answer our question. How do you write 5 as an improper fraction? Well, we put it over 1. So it's like making a whole number a fraction. So we put it over 1. So 5 is the same thing as saying 5 over 1. So 5 equals 5 over 1. Good job. All right, so now we have some examples over here. So we have 2 times 1 and 3 times 5. So I'm going to write these together on my numerators. And then I have my denominators, 3 times 5, which equals 2/15. And since that cannot be simplified, that would be my answer. Oh no, in example number 2 right here, I have a whole number. So remember, what do I need to do? You're right, I need to make the whole number a fraction by putting a 1 under it. So we have 6 over 1 times 2/3. So 6 times 2 and 1 times 3. That becomes 12 divided by 3, 12 over 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. Good job, Richland Rams. All right, next example. We have 4 and 1/5 and 2 and 1/2. Uh-oh. Remember, no whole numbers, no mixed numbers. So I have to make these into improper fractions. So I'm going to use my Texas popcorn method. So I have to multiply and add. So I get 21/5 for the first fraction. And then 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. And I'm going to have 5/2. Remember, denominator stays the same. So let me teach you a trick, and I don't want you to get confused, but we will see this a lot in 6th grade. If I'm looking at my numerator and my denominators, if I see a common factor, I can cross cancel, or cross simplify is what we call it. So 5 divided by 5 equals 1. So these turn into a 1. So now I have 21 times 1, which is 21 over 2. Now I need to change that back into a mixed number. So I have 21 divided by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. That becomes a 0. My 1 comes down. 2 cannot go into 1, so that's a 0. 0 times 2 is 0. And my remainder is 1. So since I'm changing it to a mixed number, do my backwards check. New numerator. Denominator stays the same. So my answer is 10 1/2. Good job, Richland Rams. Okay, moving on to the next page. Okay, so we want to know, what does it mean to find a fraction of a number? Well, this means to multiply. And you're going to hear us say to find a fraction of a number so many times this year in math class. So this is like saying 1/2 of 20. That means to multiply. Or 2/3 of 600. So this means you are going to multiply the fraction by the whole number. Okay, so let's do some word problems with this. Juan has 60 books in his collection. 1/5 of the books are mysteries. How many books are mysteries? Okay, so right here, as we're looking at the questions, we see that it says 1/5 of the books. Now, it says 1/5 of the books. But do we see a number that represents of the books in our word problems? Yes, we do. It says one has 60 books, so 60 represents the books. So 1/5 of 60, which means we're going to multiply. So I'm going to have 1/5 times 60 over 1. Good job, because 60 is a whole number. So I'm going to write it as, which equals, 60 divided by 5. So I multiply the 2. So 60 divided by 5 is 12. So 12 of his books are mysteries. Good job, Richland Rams. All right, the next one, word question, says 2/5 of Juan's books are graphic novels. How many graphic novels does Juan have? Well, we know that Juan's books are 60. So this is going to be 2/5 of 60. Well, if I can't remember that I multiply, one thing is I can draw a picture to match this word problem. So I know that if I had a total of his books, this can equal 60. And I know that his whole book collection would be 5 over 5. And I'm going to break this into fifths. Let me make this a little more even. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. So I know that this would be 0. And then I would have 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, and 4/5. So I know that each book is going to represent 12 books at the fifths, and 2/5 would represent 24, and I can shade that in. So then when I go over here and I multiply it, I would have 2/5 times 60 over 1. Now I'm going to cross cancel because I know that 5 is a factor of 60. So 60 divided by 5, that becomes a 1. This becomes a 12. That is going to equal 24 over 1. So 24 books are graphic novels in Juan's collection. Good job, Richland Rams. All right, what is the difference in finding 1/5 of a number and 2/5 of a number? Okay, so if you're looking at your model right here, when you go from 12 to 24, it goes from 1/5 to 2/5. You can see that 2/5 is double the amount of 1/5. All right, next word problem. Susie is making cookies. The recipe calls for 2½ cups of flour. She needs to make 3 batches of cookies. How much flour does she need? Okay, so she's making 3 batches. You can draw a model. There's 1, 2, 3, and the recipe calls for 2½ cups each. So we're going to put 2½ in our batches. Okay, so here we go. Now, if I see that I'm going to have repeated addition, that means I am going to also multiply. So down here you can write repeated addition equals multiply. So this means I'm going to change them to impropers. So I have 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 1, which is 5. So I'm going to have 5½ times 3 over 1. That gives me 15/2, which is equal to 7½ cups. So Susie is going to need 7½ cups of flour to make her 3 batches of cookies. All right. Next word problem, number 6. Lindsay is counting the students in the cafeteria. There are 240 students. 3/4 of these students are wearing RMS shirts. How many students are wearing RMS shirts? Okay, there's my of. Remember, of means to multiply. And it says of these students. But of what students? Oh, of 240 students. So I'm going to have 3/4 of 240 students. Okay, so if I'm not sure how to multiply this, remember I can draw a model. If I see 3/4, I know that my model is going to be in fourths. Okay, I know that my total is going to be 240. Well, half of that is going to be 120. And so that means I'm going to start out at 60. So it would go 60, 20, 180. So this would be the same thing as 4 over 4. This would be 1/4. This is going to be my half. And this would be 3/4. So 3/4 is going to be equal to 180. So it would be 180 students are wearing RMS shirts. Now let's multiply it. So I'd have 3/4 times 240 over 1. I know that 4 is a factor of 240. So 240 divided by 4, the 4 turns into 1. This becomes 60. 60 times 3 equals 180 over 1. So there is my 180 students, so it checks out. So 180 is my answer. All right, good job, Richland Rams. Do not forget to fill out your summary, and we will see you tomorrow.